Hey guys, it's Vignesh from CodeAndroid. In the previous tutorials of the To-Do app, we created the splash screen and to-do screen. In this video, we'll see how to manage the task for each to-do. First, we'll make this card clickable. To make this clickable, wrap the card using Inkwell and listening for the click using OnTap callback. Here, we need to move to the task screen. For the task screen, we need to pass the clicked to-do model so that we can link the task to the to-do. For moving to the next screen, calling navigator of context, then calling push named inside passing the name as task screen. Also passing the argument as to-dos of index. Now we need to pass this argument to the task screen. To do that, open app route. Here, getting the argument from setting and checking its type. If the type is to-do model, then launching the task screen. So inside the task screen, adding a final to-do model object and link it to the constructor. To do that, hover over the error and press Option Enter. This will give the suggestion. From this, select Add Final Field Formal Parameter. Now we need to pass this value from our app route. So passing the to-do model as settings.argument as to-do model. We are passing a value at runtime, so we can't use constant here, so removing it. In case the passed argument is not a type of to-do model, then we are not opening the task screen. Instead, fall back into splash screen. Let's save the code. You can see on click of the card, we are going to the task screen. In the task screen, we need to display the to-do name as a title. So replacing the placeholder with scaffold and passing title as text with widget.todomodel.name. You can see we got the app bar along with the back button. On click of this back button, user is coming to the to-do screen. Now we'll complete the DAO so that we can link all the functions at once. First, we need a model for the task, so creating a new file called task model and creating a class. Similar to to-do model, for each of the tasks we need ID, created at and name. Along with these attributes, we need some more attributes like is completed for task completion status, finally adding the sequence for reordering the task. Let's create the constructor where passing name is completed and sequence as the mandatory parameter and passing ID and created at as optional parameter. Sorry, we missed adding to-do ID attribute. We need that to link this task to a particular to-do. So adding that and making it as a mandatory parameter in the constructor. Now we have completed the structure of our task model. Let's open to-do model. You can see here we have defined the table name and column name required for this table as well as the query here. So I'm copying it and adding it to the task model. For this table, I'm giving the table name as task. Also this table has more column, so defining new variables for storing those column names. Now we have all the column name required for this table. Let's update the create query for this table. Here also we need ID as integer primary key with auto increment, created at as datetime with default value, name as varchar. So I'm leaving these as it is. For is completed, I'm giving the data type as integer because SQLite doesn't support boolean. Then adding sequence and to-do ID column as integer. Now while creating the database, we need to call this create query. So inside onCreate, calling the task model create query. This will work if we are installing the app from scratch, but if the app is already installed like this, then user will have older database on their device. In these kinds of scenario, on upgrade or on downgrade will get executed. In our case, on upgrade will get executed. In this, we get database instance old version of the DB and new version of the DB as the parameter. Using this, we need to add or modify the table. So checking old version equals 1 and new version equals 2. Whenever we do any database structure modification, we need to update the DB version. So I'm setting the DB version as 2. That's why I was checking new version equals 2. Because of this DB version change, on upgrade will get executed. Between these version change, we added the task model table. So creating the task model table here. Now we completed creating the table. For reading and writing, we need toJSON and fromJSON functions. So copy the code from todo model and adding it here. For creating the todo model, we need to pass name, is completed, sequence and todo. So reading those values from the map and passing it here. While generating JSON map also, we need the same values. So adding those values into the map using appropriate column name. Now we have completed the model and table creation. Let's create a DAO so that we can do database operation. So creating a file called task DAO. In this we will create following functions: add task, update task and read task. For add task, adding database and task model as parameter and inserting it into database using insert function. In this toJSON, we need to pass the isCompleted value as an integer because our database does not support boolean. So in the map, add 1 if the boolean is true, otherwise add 0. Similarly, while reading the value, if the value is 1, then marking isCompleted as true, otherwise make it as false. For this add task function, adding the return type as future void because it is an async function. Duplicating this for update and passing where and whereas. For where condition, passing task model column ID equals to question mark, and for where argument, passing the task model ID as an array. Now we'll see how to read the task from the database. Here we won't need all the tasks, instead we want the task which is belonging to a to-do. So adding database and todo ID as the parameter for this function. This function needs to return list of task model, so adding the return type as list of task model as well as creating a variable with list of task model as a data type and returning it. In between this, we need to read the data from the database and add it to the result list. For reading the data, we need to use query function inside passing the table name. This will return all the tasks from the table. But we need tasks belonging to a to-do. So we need to pass where and where arguments for getting the filtered result. For where condition, passing column to-do ID equals to question mark, and for where argument, passing the to-do ID as an array. Also we want to order the task by sequence, so passing order by as column sequence. Finally, looping the query result and convert the result into task model and then adding it to the result list. Now we'll link these functions to the UI. To do that, open the task screen. Here we need the to-do database and task DAO for doing the database operation. Then we need a local variable for storing the task model which is read from the database. Similar to to-do screen, we need to initialize the task while launching the screen. So I'm copying this code and adding it here. Here we need to read the task from task DAO. Also for reading the task, we need to pass the to-do ID which we are getting from the to-do model. I made this task model to return to-do model. This should return a task model. So updating the return type, also renaming the function to getTask to keep it consistent. Here this ID can be null, but we are sure that here this ID won't be null, so forcing it as not null. Let's add the task. For that we need the fab button. So I'm going to to-do screen and copy the fab button and pasting it here. This fab button requires this function, so I'm copying that as well to the task model. This needs to add or update the task, so renaming the function and changing the parameter type from to-do model to task model. Also, wherever we are showing to-do text, replacing it with task. Here, calling task.add_task and passing the database and task model. For creating a new task model, we need to pass name, is completed, sequence and to-do ID. So, passing the name as text field value. By default, we want the task to be open, so passing is completed as false. For sequence, passing the task length plus 1. Finally, passing the to-do ID. Here, instead of forcing the ID as not null, I am creating a local variable called to-do ID and initializing it inside init state. Now we can use this whenever we need to-do ID. For update, we need to update the task name with the new value and calling update task function. Finally, to refresh the list, calling update task. We already have the app installed with DB version 1, so it should call onUpgrade function. To check that, adding a breakpoint inside onUpgrade and debugging the app by clicking on the bug icon. You can see onUpgrade is getting called with old version as 1 and new version as 2. Based on this condition, we have added the task model to the existing database so that we will not lose any data which is already there in the to-do table. Now I'm going inside a to-do and adding a new task. Sorry, I forgot to add the body for the scaffold. So adding body for the scaffold. Here we need to show the task as a list as well as we want it to be reorderable. So adding reorderable list view builder. In this we'll set the item count. This list is going to be rendered using task variable, so passing the count as task.length. In this item builder, we get the context and index. Here we won't use the context, so adding underscore and index. Inside the builder, returning a row with text widget. In this, displaying the task name. For this reorder, we will get old index and new index as parameter. Based on this index, we need to swap the list item. For now, I am skipping this and saving the code. Sorry, we need to pass key for each of the reorderable list view item. So, passing the key as task and task ID. You can see we got the task. In the design, we have the task name. Below that, we have created time. On the left side of the task, we have a checkbox for is completed status and rearrange icon. On the right side, we have edit button. First, we'll add this rearrange button. For that, we need to pass reorderable drag start listener widget along with child and index. Here, passing the index and icon of icons drag indicator. You can see we got the drag icon, but we need some padding around it. So wrapping this using padding widget. After this, we need a checkbox. So adding checkbox widget with is completed as its value. This onChange callback will be triggered whenever user changes the checkbox state. So inside this, we need to update the task is completed status. In this callback, the new value can be nullable, so adding a null check, inside that updating is completed status of the task and updating it to the database. Let's save the code. You can see we got the rearrange icon, checkbox and the name. We need the time below this name, so wrapping the name using column and adding created at text widget. Here created at is nullable, so adding the default value as empty string. We got the time, but the task name went to the center. We want these to start at the same place, so adding cross-axis alignment as cross-axis alignment dot start. You can see the name and created got aligned. Now we need to add an edit icon after the name. So adding icon button inside passing icons dot edit. Let's save the code. We are getting the edit icon immediately after the name, but we want this at the end of the row. So wrapping the column using expanded. Duplicating this edit icon and using it to delete. You can see we got both edit and delete icon. For edit, we just need to call add or update task because we already handled update logic inside the dialog. Here, passing the old task as task of index. We don't have delete function, so I'm duplicating update task and renaming it as delete task. Here, we don't need values, so I'm removing it. For db.delete, we don't need complete task model, so passing database and task ID as parameter. In this where argument, I'm replacing the ID with task ID. Now we can delete the task using delete task function. It's best practice to show a warning dialog before doing delete or any other unrecoverable task, but for simplicity, I'm skipping that for now. After deleting the task, we need to update the list, so calling update task. Sorry, the checkbox is not reflecting the change because we need to call setState on the value change. You can see I'm checking the checkbox and going back. When I come back, the state got persisted. Let's try editing the task. You can see the task also got updated. If I try to delete, then delete also working fine. Now we'll handle the rearrangement. For that, creating some tasks. Whenever we do drag and drop, this onReorder will get called. Inside, we need to swap the index of the task and update the task to the database. For swapping the task from the local variable, I'm checking if new index is greater than old index, then decreasing the new index by 1. Because when we remove the task from the old index, the list length will be reduced by 1. Now we can remove the item from the old index using remove at and add it to the new index using insert function. This change need to be updated to the database, so instead of updating all the item sequence, I want to update only the affected items. For that, I need min index and max index which got affected. Using the math package, we got min and max index. Now looping the task between min and max index and updating the sequence inside the loop. Inside the loop, I'm updating the task. Note here, I'm not calling await because I'm updating the local list which is used to show the UI, so I'm updating the database asynchronously. Let's save the code. I'm dragging the task tree to here and going back. You can see still the sequence got persisted. Let's mark some of the tasks as completed and swap the task. You can see still the sequence and status got persisted. Now I want to list the task into the to-do screen. So I'm going to to-do screen. Here, while reading the task, I want the task linked to each to-do. So adding a list inside to-do model. Here, after reading the data from the database, looping through the to-dos. Inside, we need to update the task list. To get the task for each to-do, we need task.dev, so adding that. Now we can read the task for each to-do using getTask. But this won't work here because await inside loop won't work. So we need to use future for each to achieve that. Inside, getting task for each of the to-do and updating it. Now we have the to-do model with the task mapped to it. To display the task, wrapping the row using a column widget inside displaying the task using list view builder. Here passing the item count as task's length inside builder returning text widget with task name. Here I am renaming the index to task index because we need both to do index and task index for reading the task name. Finally wrapping the list view using expanded. Also I want a line to split the to do with task, so adding a divider in between these. You can see we got the to-do's task. Here the alignment is looking little weird, so wrapping the to-do row with padding. Here we have one issue that if I rearrange the task and come back to the to-do screen, the task list is not getting updated. To do that, we need to update the to-do once user come back to to-do screen. So waiting for this navigation using then inside calling update to-dos. You can see if I go in and come back, the list is getting updated. From the design we missed one menu option which is mark as complete. Let's add that. So duplicating the pop-up menu item and changing the text as mark as complete and passing the value as mark as complete. This mark as complete will make all the tasks inside a to-do as completed. To handle that we need another else condition here. Instead we'll use switch case. So that if we add any new option in our enum, we will get a linter error. If the selected item is edit, then calling add or update to do and then calling break. If the selected option is delete, then delete the to do and update the list and then calling break. Finally adding mark as completed. Here we need to make all the tasks belonging to a to do as completed. So creating a new function called mark as completed. Inside passing database and to-do ID. Using this to-do ID, we need to update all the tasks. So instead of using update, we need to use raw update. Inside we need to pass the SQL query. Update table name set. Here we need to pass the value which we want to set. In our case we want to update only is completed value. So passing column is completed equals to question mark, where here we need to pass the where condition. In our case we want to update the task which has to do ID matching to the to do ID which we are passing it to this function. Now our query has two question mark, so we need to pass argument with two values. First value will be 1 because we want to set is completed as true, then passing to do ID as second value. This raw update will also asynchronous function, so awaiting for this. Now we need to call this function on click of that mark as complete option. After updating the task, we need to refresh the to-do list. Here I want to strike out the to-do if all the task is completed. To make it, creating a new boolean variable called is to do completed. If any of the task has is completed as false, we want to make this as false. So I'm negating it. Now using this is to do completed variable, we need to change the text decoration. So passing the style as text style inside passing the decoration. If is to do completed, then passing the decoration as text decoration dot line through, otherwise passing the decoration as text decoration dot none. Let's save the code. You can see the second to do is showing as striken because this does not have any task. This to do has some of the tasks incomplete. To make these tasks completed, we can use mark as completed option. You can see the to do name got striken out. Also each task is completed status got updated. I want to strike the text inside the task also, so changing the decoration based on is completed status of the task. Let's save the code. You can see all the task name got stricken. If I uncheck the task name is showing in a normal text. Also when I exit the task stream, the to-do name also become normal text. Now we have completed the to-do app. In next video, we'll see how to change the app icon for a Flutter application. That's all for this video guys. If you have any doubt, please put them in the comment section. I will try to answer it. Hope you like it. I will see you in my next video. Have a nice day.